My new friend is here too, my
Okay.
new teacher.
Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of the Lighthouse project as we continue our learning of Basics in Judaism series. We're going to deposit another installment. Tonight's lesson is Worldly and Spiritual Garments. Before we get started on this very, very interesting lesson, I'd like to give an honorable mention. I'd like to dedicate this class to the Ilu Nishmat of David ben Zohar, Shmuel ben Amuma, Sion ben Zechari, Yaniv ben Rina, Tzipora Esther bat Mazal, who I found out is a wonderful woman that passed a few years ago, who used to be a relentless a woman that would pray relentlessly for Am Yisrael and read Tehillim relentlessly for anyone who needed it. What a quality to constantly be praying and saying Tehillim for people that needed it. Also, would like to dedicate this class to the memory of Aaron Moshe ben Tzvi and Elu Nishmat Carmela bat Mesoda Zichrona Livracha, Elu Nishmat Derov Fega bat Shmuel, Menachem Mendel bat Elchanan Zichronam Livracha. And I just want to give a special shout out to Stacy Esther bat Miriam and her family, and Dov and Devor Lankin for being new supporters of the class and of tuning in. And of course, to Yocheved and to Tara, my good friends over here that are here in person. Let's get started. Okay. Again, the series Basics in Judaism, we're about like 20 episodes deep into it, which is good. It started out with just giving a rough idea for people that are not connected. And you start the class, it starts you off with the basics, you build you up to intermediate level, and at the end of the class you know a lot. And I think that was the formula that we kept using for every one of our classes. So today I thought there was a subject that has been on my mind for a very long time and I wanted to discuss it, which has to do with the way we dress. Okay, and it's something that I got inspired. Rav Yisrael Arbegel, Rav Yisrael Arbegel, my rabbi from Israel, gave a class on it recently, and it really inspired me to say that maybe we should all get to understand clothing, both physical and spiritual clothing. So, this Basics in Judaism class is to have the basic understandings that we must have of our religion, of Judaism, and God. And tonight we're going to talk about one of life's basic necessities, clothing. Now, we use clothing to protect our bodies, right? From the four elements, from cold, from heat, from rain, from snow, even wind, right? We got windbreakers. And we even use clothing as a form of expression, such as in fashion, when changing trends. Even, clothing as uniforms is a very, very interesting concept because it helps us identify as part of groups or job roles. We know that people that wear uniforms also helps create cohesion between groups. It removes peer pressure for people that are constantly everybody's wearing the same amount of the same type of clothing. It encourages professionalism, like when a cop is in a uniform, when a soldier is in a uniform. Respect. It does warrant respect. It also reduces distractions for the person that's wearing it, and there's a lot of focus on character when a person has a uniform as opposed to not wearing one. But as Jews, we also have a uniform. We have a different type of relationship with clothing. We have halachic guidelines to follow. We have like a different dress code for different times of the year. It's very interesting how the Jews interact with their clothing. For example, the broad stroke, the first thing that we should discuss when we talk about clothing in Jews is the word tzniut. Tzniut stands for modesty, right? And this is a concept that applies for both men and women. It's part of our dress code. It's what dictates our dress code. We start off our dress code, or the way that we want to purchase apparel, wear apparel, that it first goes under the category of modest. Now, for men, that is pants, a shirt. It can't be too flashy, Can't be too bummy. It has to be, as Masechet Shabbat says, mechubad, right? Has to be
that word?
presentable. Has to be clean. Masechet Shabbat actually scorns a Torah learner that is not well kept. That he's, he walks around with a dirty shirt. He just ate and you see half the meal on the shirt. It's not respectable. For women, tzniut is also. We also have guidelines for it. Typically, a woman should wear a skirt or a dress that is below the knee. Shirts that are below the elbow. You have to cover the collarbone. Shoulder blade should be covered, and nothing should be tight-fitting or form-fitting. It shouldn't be flashy, and a woman should have head covering when she's married. And that's just the basic rules, And in between those rules, express yourself any way that you want to.
Can we express ourselves a little bit?
Yeah.
About that? Okay. What were you going to say?
What about pants, like jeans?
That's a man's clothing. We're going to
Jean
get to
skirt,
that.
jean
We're going to
skirt.
get that in a minute. We're going to get to it in about 3 minutes.
Jean skirt, jean long skirt.
Jean skirt is fine.
Okay, this is one of my biggest issues because of the heat factor. To me, living in South Florida, it's almost criminal to be to here, to the ankle. Like I don't mind.
So, look, I'll
It gives
answer-
me a phobia. It
Right.
gives me
So
a
I'll
no-
answer your question quickly, and then maybe we could just build up all the questions to the end, so like that we have, because we are going to cover a lot, and probably by the end of the class you'll have the answers, and if we have any leftover questions, we'll answer them. But you have to understand, when it comes to Jews and their clothing, it's not about being comfortable. It's not about being comfortable. If you feel that your clothes are going to make you hot and stifly, make sure you're in an air-conditioned or loose, not loose fitting, and maybe linen instead of cotton or wool. There's ways to go around it. Jewish women have successfully done this for many, many years. Okay, but we'll talk about it. But just right now, just on a broad stroke, we know that it's skirts or dresses past the elbow, collarbone covered, shoulder blade covered, not tight fitting or form fitting, not flashy, and head covering married. In other words, modest. Okay. Also, when it comes to clothing, we have to be careful not to wear shatnez. What shatnez? We can't have a wool and linen mixture. So, if you ever want to wear linen pants with a nice wool sweater, that's a sin. Because we have one of the 613 is not to wear shatnez. Shatnez is one of these mitzvot that are very hard to understand. It's one of those rules that was given to us and we just have to do. But there's many interpretations that make us understand it. Also the background story to it. Maybe one day we could do a whole class about shatnez, but just understand that there's a concept that we can't have wool and linen at the same time. Also, we are instructed to have different types of clothing and different types of year. For example, we have to have special clothing for Shabbat, special clothing for Rosh Chodesh, special clothing for holidays, for Yom Tov, for Chol HaMoed. Basically, on those days, we dress up. We don't wear our jeans and our polos. We don't wear our weekday clothes. We have special clothes, a little bit of a higher quality, a little bit fancier, that we wear on these unique days of the year. Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, holidays, Yom Tov, Chol HaMoed.
Passover is Chol HaMoed?
Yeah. Those are, Chol HaMoed is a day that it's within a holiday, but it doesn't have the restrictions of a Yom Tov. In other words, on a Yom Tov, it's like a Shabbat, right? But Chol HaMoed, it's a day that's a holiday, but you can still, let's say, drive, you can still use the phone, but you still have to dress up a little bit different than a regular day. Also, we have a thing where we say Shechianu when we wear new clothes. Imagine, we get excited when we have something that's brand new, and we bless on it. Back in the days, not everybody used to have so many different types of clothing. You used to have one suit, one shirt, two shirts, a shirt during the week, shirt for the holidays. So when you get an additional shirt or additional suit, it's like, whoa. Nowadays, it's questionable if you do that, if you make that bracha. As a matter of fact, one of the guidelines is, does it make you happy? Does it really give you such a simcha that you're wearing this suit, right? So let's say if a guy's getting married and he has this really expensive suit for his wedding, maybe that warrants shechianu. But if he gets a $99 suit from the mall, it's questionable if he says shechianu on that.
For some people, that's a big deal.
It's
The $99.
It's relative.
Is exciting, yeah.
That's relative.
Is that where Mitchadesh comes from? How do you know whenever you say Tchachi or Tchadesh?
It's
Like a thing.
it's a thing that where you something new. Now, also we have restrictions where not restrictions, but we have guidelines that we have to be fully covered when we pray. You got to go around.
Oh,
Just keep
that's
it-
my friend.
Well,
I can't open
that
it.
thing is going to go off if you open it. Yeah,
I'm gonna go welcome them.
not a problem. So we have to be covered when we pray, right? We can't have our bodies exposed when we're praying. That's for men and for women. You know, we can't sit around with our, a girl can't sit around in her shorts and start to say Birkot HaShacha. You can't go light your candles when half your body is exposed. You want to have to be covered when you're doing these mitzvot or when you're praying. Also, we even have to be careful when we get dressed and undressed, that we use the proper side of our body, right versus left. As a matter of fact, I think the third installment in this series of Basics in Judaism was right versus left. The difference between using the right side of your body versus the left side of your body. When you get dressed, you put your right hand first or your left hand first. When you get undressed, when you take off your shoes, which foot do you take off first? How do you tie your shoelaces? There's a whole Torah to it. There's a whole set of halachic rules on how a person should get dressed and undressed, which is unique to Judaism. Furthermore, we also have a prohibition not to dress like goyim, not to dress like the Gentiles. It says that we should not go in their ways, and going in their ways means that you could totally be fully covered from head to toe, and you're tsanua, modest, but the clothing is completely not let's say Jewish friendly. Okay, so we have to make sure that even our choice of clothing, our choice of brands is appropriate. Also, we have an isur for a woman to wear men's clothing, and a man to wear women's clothing, as it says. Lo hiye kli gever al isha. It says that a man's tool should not be on a woman. Back in the day, it would be like a knife. A woman should not be walking around with a knife or with a sword. Lo hiye kli gever al isha. But the word kli is another word also for clothing. So it says over here in Sifri, Shelo tilbash isha kelim levanim, that a woman should not wear all white. Ve'ish lo yitkaseh bigdei tzivonim, and a man should not wear so many colorful colors. When it's when it's white, it's see-through, so you can see the form of the body.
What about on holidays when we go
No, it's fine, but typically back in the days it used to be what? That it was see-through. You could see through a woman wearing white, so it's not sanua. And a man wearing pink and green and yellows, it's screaming out. It's not something appropriate for a man, right?
Yes.
And we learn from here that it's toiva. What's the toiva? Shelo tilvash isha ma she'ish lovesh. That a woman should not wear what a man wears, and tilech ben hanashim, and then she should go out in public. Va'ish lo yitkashet b'tachshitei nashim v'lech ben hanashim, and that a man should not dress himself up or ornate himself in the way of a woman and go out in public. So just to picture what Sifri is saying over here, imagine a woman. She's wearing a pantsuit, or she's wearing a full business suit with a tie, and she looks like she's completely she's like a man, right? It's not men wear pants, women wear skirts. And as far as the man, imagine he goes out into public and he's wearing a skirt, and he's wearing earrings, and he's wearing a nice pearl necklace. And we see that today, it is shockingly, you go to the supermarket. And not that we should be looking at all those magazines and all those images over there. I know for me as a man, I shouldn't be looking at it because it's not appropriate. But I had to take a double take one time when I see a guy on the front cover of a men's magazine wearing a full-on skirt.
A kilt in Scotland.
It's not even that anymore. It's a full-on feminine attire on a man.
Yeah.
What about Purim?
Huh?
What about
Purim is a different story. I don't know. They say whatever a person wears in Purim, it's his subconscious mind speaking out of what he really wants to be. That's why people want to be fireman, policeman, SWAT man, rabbi, chief rabbi, you call Kohen Gadol. When somebody gets dressed up as a woman, you got to think twice. What is it that he's living out that moment? But at the end of the day, a man should not dress like a woman should not dress like a man. That's what the Torah says. As a matter of fact, it says that a person, we said that, maybe we skip that. So there's a few more layers to clothing in Judaism. There's a few more layers to clothing in a Jew, okay? But first, before we talk about that, let's get the history of clothes. Let's think of where did clothing start? Adam and Eve. Let's see let's see how that started. We have to go back to Bereshit. So after Adam and Chava ate from the tree of knowledge, good and bad, in Sefer Bereshit, on the 3rd chapter, Pasuk Zayin, the 7th Pasuk, it says,
good and evil?
Yeah. Vatipkachena einei shnehem vaydu ki hrumim hem. Their eyes opened up and they realized that they were naked. Vayitperu ale te'ena. They sewed together a fig leaf. Ve'asu lahem chagorot. And they made aprons for them to cover their nakedness. Okay? Then it says that they heard God's voice in the garden and they started to hide from God. And Hashem says, Vayikra Hashem Elokim el Adam vayomer lo ayeka. He said, where are you? Rashi says on this particular pasuk, he says, why did they use ale te'ena? Why did they use fig leaves? He says, because hu ha'etz she'achlu mimenu. That's the tree that they ate from. And the thing that they sinned with is the sin that they used, that they had to fix with. The rest of the trees didn't allow them to take leaves from them. The only trees that allowed them to take leaves was the fig trees. Interesting.
Very interesting.
So how come this tree is not famous? You know what? Actually, I'm reading it right now. I didn't hear about them eating from a fig tree, right?
Wait a minute.
They ate from the tree of knowledge, good and bad. Rashi's telling us no, that there's a reason why it was hidden over here and not publicized that they ate from this tree.
It was actually fig.
It wasn't actually fig. They said that they ate from this tree as well. So what? Meaning they ate from the tree of good and bad and the fig tree. But why isn't it publicized that they ate from the fig tree? He didn't want to embarrass the tree. That people would go throughout history and say, "Oh no, I'm not eating figs anymore." After what happened in the sin of Adam of Adam Arishon, the Al-Sheikh says something very interesting. He says that Ale Te'ena, what was that? It says initially, Kodem hayu levoshim bechaluka derabanan. Before the original sin, they were wearing a spiritual garment.
Okay.
A spiritual garment called Haluka de Rabbanan, almost like a spiritual robe. Okay? This is a famous piece of clothing that the Zohar always speaks of. Okay? Every righteous Jew in the heavens, he's dressed in this spiritual garment, spiritual robe called Haluka de Rabbanan. Haluk, like a robe, de Rabbanan. That is made from what? Mimaaseh mitzvot. That's a robe made from mitzvot.
Is it translucent?
No, translucent. We'll get to it. We're getting very close to it because we'll go to the next pasuk. Actually, we're going to touch on that right now on pasuk Chavtet. It says Chaf Aleph. I'm sorry, the 21st pasuk. Vayas Hashem Elokim laAdam velishto kotnot or vayalbishem. It says that after Hashem saw them and they were hiding and they had the whole conversation, Ayeka, and Adam blames his wife for making him sin and eating from Etz Hadat Tov V'Ra. Hashem creates for them a garment and it's kutnot or vayalbishem. The kutnot or, these are garments of skin, and he clothed them. Garments of skin? What does that mean, garments of skin? So check this out. This is very, very interesting. In the beginning of time, Adam's body, the composition of Adam's body was like a luminescent, see-through nail.
Yeah.
Imagine that instead of having skin, he had nail. Like look at the way we have here, all over his entire body.
Reptilian,
And no, it's not reptilian. Reptilian is something else.
But like a thick.
No, it's like a nail, just like the nail that we have right here. This is the reason why we even have nails, is to remind us that we were always, that this is what we were like in the first, when God created us. Now imagine the entire body was like that, and he was bright, luminescent, right? After the sin, Hashem made him kutnot or. He turned the nail into skin, and that's what happened in Bereshit.
Do you know how it folded over? How many times?
No, it didn't fold over. It went from kutnot or, it went from nail to kutnot or, which is skin. So we had a transformation on the first day of creation of what? Going from a luminescent nail-like body covering, bright, see-through, kutnot or, light, to kutnot or,
Right.
skin.
Aleph and Ayin.
Aleph and Ayin. Okay? Now, this is very interesting because now we're going to start talking about the words for clothing in Hebrew. They have a lot of hidden meaning. For example, a person's clothing is a person's levush. What's levush? Clothing in Hebrew. Okay? It comes from the word boshet. What's boshet? Embarrassment. Okay?
Busha.
Huh?
Busha.
Busha. Levush comes from busha. Why? Because they were embarrassed from their actions. So because of their embarrassment, from their busha, he needed a levush to cover up their busha, to cover up their embarrassment. Because their actions are what caused them to realize, and you see that they were hiding from God. What is that? Embarrassment. And the word malbush matches the emotion of boshet. Goes hand in hand.
Shame.
Okay. Also, a piece of clothing is called beged, right? Malbush is clothing. A piece of clothing is beged. Beged comes from the word bagad. What's bagad? Bagad is to cheat. It's to be unfaithful. What happened? Adam HaRishon had one mitzvah: do not eat from the tree of knowledge, good and bad. What did he do? He was unfaithful to God's word. He did not keep God's commandment. Hu bagad, he cheated on God's word. So because hu bagad, Hashem had to create for him beged.
They're spelled the same way too, right?
Yeah. He gave him a beged, a clothing.
Got it.
So we see that bgadim and malbushim, clothing and clothes, in Hebrew are shame
And cheat.
and shame and almost cheating, like not listening to God's words.
Negative.
The source for their existence came because of the action of Adam HaRishon. And it says over here, "V'lo yatzarich lilvushim klal began Eden." There was no such concept or such necessity for clothing in Gan Eden. They didn't need it.
Right.
Mikol kama yatzarich lilvushim dinyan asir busha. The only reason why they actually needed clothes now is in order to cover up their embarrassment. If they weren't embarrassed, there's no need for them at all.
It was perfect temperature.
La busha lo bosher. Now, as the world turns and civilizations have come and gone, all had a certain style of clothing, right? That a certain style of clothing that defines them or that defines their culture. Like the Romans have the togas, and the Egyptians had the neems, the striped headcloth that they used to wear. The Africans have the dashiki shirts, right? With the Indians have the saris, right? For us Jews, we don't have clothing that defined us, but the thing that defined us is that we were always modestly dressed. That it's not much of a fashion statement, rather a spiritual statement. As a matter of fact, we don't give the physical side such importance, nor do we promote our bodies. When it comes to our bodies, it's not about showing off a body part or showing off a certain style. For us, it's never been about the physical part of it. We always kept the physical part undercover. It's more about the soul's purpose to elevate the spiritual through the physical. We use the body, we use the physical to elevate the spiritual. So the body itself in reality was always just a tool and a spiritual accessory to our neshama. Because the physical helps us get to the spiritual level that we are constantly in search of. We are spiritual beings on a physical journey. That's the Jew. So anything that is here, we all know, if you ever ask a religious Jew, what is your body? They'll tell you, it's a suit. Who's the real you? It's the neshama inside of me. This is just the suit that God gave me to wear while I'm on this planet. And we see that even when the Jews were in Egypt, even if we fast forward a little bit more in history, when the Jews were in Egypt, the reason why they were saved, our rabbis tell us, our sages tell us, because they didn't change three things. They didn't change their names, their language, or their apparel. Shem, Lashon, and Livush. They never changed their Hebrew names to Egyptians' names.
What about the food?
It doesn't say anything about the food, but they never changed their names. They constantly spoke Hebrew. They never let go of the language. And they didn't let go of their livush, of their clothing. In other words, what? They dressed modestly in Egypt. As a matter of fact, the Ben Ish Chai has an incredible chidush. In the Song of the Sea, when the Jewish people escaped from Egypt, and it says, and we sing the whole song, it says over there, there's one pasuk over there, one verse that says, that speaks about Paro, Paro's thinking. He says, Erdof asig achalek shalal. He says, I'm going to chase them. Asig, I'll catch up to them. And then, achalek shalal. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to split up the booty. I'm going to split up the treasure. Meaning what? How do you convince your army to go to war, to follow the Jews, after they just got hit on the head with 10 plagues and they're seeing a splitting of the sea? How can you convince somebody to go fight the Jewish God, to go fight the Jewish nation? So you know what he did? No. He opened up his treasure coves, filled them up on the chariots, and he said, anybody that goes to war with me, not only do they get to keep what's on their chariots, imagine billions of dollars of jewelry and diamonds, right, and thing, but when they come back, they're going to get these treasure coves as well. Achalek shalal, I'll split my treasures with them. So anybody who was greedy fell for the trap. So erdof asig achalek shalal. Erdof, I will chase. Asig, I will catch up to them. Achalek shalal, when we defeat them, I will distribute the beauty. I will split up the beauty. The Ben Ish Chai says, what's achalek shalal? Paro had a hidden agenda. When he catches up to them, when he chases them and catches up to them, and finally has the Jews in his hand, he's going to achalek shalal. Achalek means I will divide. Shalal. So he says, what's shalal? Shem, Lashon, Livush. The three things that kept them strong in Egypt, I will make sure that they will change their names, that they won't be able to speak Hebrew, and I will make them change their dress code. Achalek, shalal. Shalal, Shem, Lashon, Libush. Just goes to show you how important it throughout history has been that we kept our dress code. It saved us from this, from the powers of Egypt and Paro. Now, our dressing modestly has always protected us, but nowadays we see Orthodox Jews dress modestly in two ways. We have modern modest, right? And we have black and white. What's the difference? Right? So modern modest, right? As long as it's following the tzniut guidelines, it's okay. But to an extent, right? It's a fine line where one dresses modestly, but has crossed the line to looking like a goy, right? Because you can be fully covered, but if you look like the rap star or some sort of a pop star, and all that. It's if you don't have that Jewish look,
But you can look very nice also.
100%. It's not a sin to look nice. It's not It's not a sin to be in vogue, to be in fashion, to be up to date. It's not, as long as you do it properly and with taste. And sometimes most women know what it is.
Question.
Yes.
What about people have a more beautiful head covering or wig than their own natural
I'm not
hair?
touching that. I'm not touching that. We're doing clothing. One day we'll do wigs. But I have my own personal opinion on it. I don't know if that matters, but
But it's a tough one.
it's a very tough one. So that's the modern modest. The next one is the black and white, right? It's the least understood fashion statement or choice of apparel in the Jewish world. Most people dredge to cross over that religious line and be like, oh, if I'm going to be religious, I have to be limited to this wardrobe, just black and white. It's depressing, right? But in reality, the choice of black and white is symbolic. That they're not slaves to fashion. They're not slaves to the current
It's
trends.
freedom.
Yeah, they don't have to follow the trends of the world. They have their own trend to follow, let's say. It's not a trend, it's a lifestyle. It doesn't change with cultures and what's in vogue. They don't need an alligator on the chest or a Nike swoosh on the arm or a double G belt or a Versace logo. They don't need that to define them. Clothing is an accessory to serving God modestly. That's the black and white. They got past that part of their life where they need clothing to define them. They got past that point of their life where they need to feel like this shirt makes me feel better, or that jeans or that label makes me feel better than if it was something else. For them, this white shirt makes me feel just as good as that other white shirt. They're already there. Their mind is already on a different level. They're not wrestling with fashion. Okay? It's actually freeing.
But
if you think of it.
born that way, it's just you don't even think about it that you're free. You're just raised that way.
Right, but everybody's got eyes and ears and a mind, and they see things around them. They can choose if they want to do modern Orthodox or stay in black and white. But you have to understand the black and white thing. I salute it. I'm still challenged. I still need the label and a little alligator and a little duck on my shirt to make
And
it
you
think
like
that it's
the
cool.
Way it feels. You
Huh?
like the way it feels.
I guess but
The
these
physical.
these are people that are saying, "Hey, it's not. I'd rather invest my time in learning and in connecting to God, and less time in shopping and worrying about what looks good and what doesn't look good. I'm fine just the way that I am.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a suit to my suit.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they've accepted this clothing style because their ancestors in Eastern Europe chose this look, this black and white, and the symbolism behind it, and they accepted it that as modern Jews today, that also reflects on who they are spiritually.
It honors them too.
It does honor their heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it a befitting apparel for religious Jews, but it defines which camp you belong to, right? When somebody's wearing black and white,
Black hat.
he said, "This guy is part of the Orthodox Jewry, right? It reflects their heritage." As a matter of fact, I know that I struggled with the kippah for many, many years. I always thought to myself, to wear a kippah, you have to do it when you pray. Okay, so I kept it in my back pocket every time I prayed. And when I eat, every time I say a blessing. Then it was okay. Now, every time I have coffee.
Cool.
So I found myself that half the day I have like a clown. Put it on, put it off, put it on, put it off. And then I realized, what is the meaning of a kippah? Well, the meaning of a kippah is three things. One, why they call it yarmulke. It's actually short for Yirat Malka, the fear of the queen, or the fear of the Shekhinah, the fear of heaven. This shows me, my family, everyone around me, and the entire world. I have a fear of God. There's somebody over me. Not only that, when I put this kippah on, I show to all the people that are around me that I'm a proud Jew. And as a Jew, I know that there's a God in the world, and there's a creator in the world. And I represent a believer in God and creation and Shabbat and the Torah, all with this little kippah right here. Furthermore, with this kippah, I joined a camp, a group. I'm
Does
out
it-
there
does
saying,
it
hey,
elevate
I'm
you?
a Jew.
Does it elevate you because it makes you more aware?
And the last thing was, it makes me behave differently. Without the kippah, I'm just like every other guy. I could yell, I could scream, I could be nasty, I could curse, right? Because I'm just like every other guy. But if I have a kippah on my head, I'm a representative of the Jewish nation. I am God's son. I can go out there and embarrass the Jews. I can't be out there and embarrass the Torah or embarrass God. So it holds me back from acting like a monkey, from using foul language, from doing things the wrong way. It actually helps me be a nicer person. Hi, thank you. How are you? Why? I'm Jewish. I'm a nice guy. It actually helps me. It helps me become a better version of myself. Okay, so similarly is with their garb. When they wear the black and white, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You can't mistake that they're Jews. And they want you to know that they're Jewish. They want to be out there saying, we belong to the sect that believes in God and there's a creator in the world and we believe in Torah. And if you want to put us under a microscope, go ahead. Because we're going to act a certain way, we're going to talk a certain way, because we know we are the promoters of God. So when they take that upon themselves, I salute them. It's not so easy, it's not so simple. How many Jews are undercover? They took off the kippah and they can act any way they want because nobody knows if they're Jewish or not. Especially today. Furthermore, for the children, if we think about the children, one of the benefits of wearing black and white every day is that it frees up the kids from that, from fashion and competition. You know, my friend.
Self-esteem.
Yeah, my friend has this, my friend has that. He's got this shirt, he's got that shirt. I like this color, I don't like that color. Also, it's very dignified style of clothing, if you ask me. Dress shirt, dress pants, dress shoes every day.
Formal.
Right? It's a formal way of dressing. And these are clothes that actually befit a Torah scholar, befit a Torah Jew, right? That they should look like that. They don't look like in sweatpants and sneakers or jeans and a polo. They look nice. They look presentable. They look like little office people walking around, right? Even if you wanted your lawyer to show up, he shows up in a suit, right? My kid goes to shul, goes to school in a suit. Our kids go to shul in a suit, right? So how nice is that? It lends prestige, and that's befitting of a Torah learner. So it's not. It builds confidence. It clears up your mind. You don't have to think about what am I wearing? Is it this shirt or that shirt? They get dressed up in the morning. They get dressed in the morning in minutes. They don't have to choose. Their mind is freed up to be more Avdei Hashem. Not only that, you know, a lot of people, when they try to think down on this black and white, you have to see what it represents, what it stands for. It's actually a positive thing. It's a beautiful thing. You know that they say the famous saying that clothes make the man, right? They lend him honor.
Yeah.
Many times when we see a person, we judge them by the way that they are dressed.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there's a famous story of in the Gemara. It says in Imre Noam. Let me see if I have it over here. If I have it here, it says, when you're in public, people honor you because of your clothing. So you need to honor them too. You need to honor your clothing as well. Fold them, set them back. It says that there's a story in the Gemara about Rabbi Yochanan that called his clothes mechubadai, my honored clothes. He would honor his clothing, right? He would speak to his clothing mechubadai. It's like such a pretty word, and it says, and why would he say that to them? He says, Atem mechabdim sheli, you make me honorable. I go out in the street, I look so presentable, people speak so nicely to me. Sheken levusho shel adam hu kvodo, because a lot of people give honor to other individuals because of the way that they're dressed, right? And adam nikar pi levusho. And we see, so he says, the same way that you honor, let me see, actually I have it over here somewhere. I would love to read it to you guys from the text.
But
Oh, here it is.
Take care of your possessions.
Here, look what it says. A person should have hakarat tov. What's hakarat tov? Gratitude. Gratitude is when you're grateful, not just to human beings. Imagine being grateful to anything that's done you good, like Moshe Rabbeinu, right? He didn't want to hit the Yeor. He didn't want to hit the Nile. Why? Because it saved him when he was a baby. He didn't want to hit the sand. Why? Because when he killed the Egyptian, he got buried in the sand. He didn't want to hurt the sand. He didn't want to turn the sand into lice. He didn't want to hit the Nile and turn into blood. Hakarat tov. Wow. Sometimes you think it's as if me being so super nice to this cup of coffee, taking it home, adopting it. I don't want to do anything wrong to it. I don't want to throw it in the garbage. Imagine like inanimate objects and you're giving them honor. So on that.
I do hakarat tov every night. I'd say thank you to my house every day.
Beautiful. Hakarat tov. That'd be borderline crazy if you told that to people that don't love you, you know. But we know who. 100%.
You go on a trip, you say, "Bye, house."
Yes.
You're protecting me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It's totally fine. It's totally fine. Yeah. If these walls could talk, and the walls do talk, later on I'll tell you a story. So there's a story in Chazal in Masechet Brachot on the 62nd page on the second side. It says, Kol hamevazet abgadim sof eno nehena mehem. Anybody who embarrasses or abuses their clothes, in the end, doesn't get to enjoy his clothes. And Rabbi Nachman from Breslov says, and this is in Likutei Etzot, צריך לשמור מאוד את הבגדים שלא יבזה אותם. A person has to be extra careful to protect his clothes, to לשמור, not just to protect, but to keep them in good conditions, and not to abuse them. רק לשומרם היטב מכתמים ולכלוך. They should not get dirty, and they should not get stained. כי הבגדים בעצמם הם דנים את האדם אם אינו מכבדם כראוי. Listen to this. The clothes go up to the heaven and press charges on the person that doesn't take care of them properly. הבגדים בעצמם דנים את האדם אם אינו מכבדם כראוי. וכל מי שהוא גדול ביותר צריך לשמור את הבגדים. And the more the person is honorable and prestigious, he has to take care of his clothing and wear a higher quality clothing. כי כל מי שגדול יותר מדקדקים עמו יותר. Anybody who is more prestigious, they are more careful with him or stringent with him in his clothes. So he continues to explain, והיינו, כי בגדיו של האדם עושים עמו טובה גדולה. The clothing do a great favor to a human being. לא רק שמכסים את כל איבריו ומונעים ממנו בושה וחרפה. It's not enough that he's not naked. They cover every part of his body and they save him from the embarrassment of being naked. That alone is a thank you very much clothing for keeping me covered. אלא הם גם מעניקים לו הרבה כבוד. And they also give him a lot of honor. According to what you wear, people honor you. כפי שמצינו, he brings this Masechet Shabbat on the 113th page on the first side. שרבי יוחנן היה קורא בגדיו מכבדי. What I was just saying. Rabbi Yochanan used to call his clothing מכבדי, my honorers. לכן אדם חייב להכיר בגדו טובה. You have to. ומי שמזלזל בהם משיב להם רעה תחת טובה, ועל כך הם דנים אותו בשמיים. This is incredible. He says anybody who is not careful with his clothes, it's as if he gives bad versus the good that he received, and he gets judged in the heavens for the way he treats his clothes.
Unbelievable.
What?
Unbelievable.
This is mind-blowing. This is Rabbi Nachman from Breslov. So he says, so there are times when a person comes home and he takes his clothes and he throws it on the floor. He throws the jacket on the floor. He puts the pants on any corner. You know, some people, you come in, you see them, they have a shirt on the lamp. They have a pants on the bed, another t-shirt over there. Meaning everything is all over the place. He's completely disrespecting his clothes.
Yes.
כשהוא פושט את בגדיו, משיך את הרצפה וכדומה, or when he takes off his clothes, you know, sometimes you have tight-fitting pants, and you take them off and then you just leave them on the ground.
Yeah.
Okay? So he says, מצד מידת הכרת הטוב צריך לבגדים. He says, just from being grateful, from a sense of gratitude, you have to honor your clothes. So when you take off your clothes, the proper thing is to take them, fold them, put them nicely on a chair, hang them. Don't just use them and then do what? Throw them on the floor.
Hamper.
Right.
What about the hamper?
Hamper is fine. It's laundry, right?
Yeah. Now, You have a couple more?
No. From Rabbi Nachman, that was so interesting.
Very.
Okay.
Now, let me say something.
Yes.
A lot of times you think people are superficial the way they act about their clothes. Like it's just, you say, like, oh, be careful, this is a very expensive purse or very expensive jacket, you know. Oh. But it's really, you're saying a mitzvah to do that, to really be that superficial in a sense. And what about, you know how many wives would be happy if they would say this to their husband, that they're going to be judged if they don't pick up their clothes off the floor, because they sometimes just,
there you go.
it's a big thing between them. And there was, and it's, what I wrote is like, it's actually a sin to be sloppy, messy, or unconscious.
You could say that in a way, you know why? Because look, when God wanted to give us the Torah, what's the first thing He told us to do?
What?
The laundry.
Really?
Yeah, He says, go wash your clothes, get yourself clean. In 3 days, you're going to meet God. It's godliness is cleanliness.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we have to be very careful with our clothing. As a matter of fact, we have to be very careful with the new fashion of having ripped clothing, right?
I love it though.
Huh?
I love it.
Well, then you're going to love this next section because
Oh, no,
ripped
I'm
clothing
gonna get all my jeans now.
is not respectful, it's not presentable or honorable. Listen to what the Zohar says. The Zohar says that the mezikim nitfasim b'dvarim shvurim, kroim v'harusim. We have menacing angels in this world. You can't see them. There's thousands, there's millions of them around us right now. Okay? They need something to cling on to. There's many different things in the world that they're able to cling on to, and there's different things that they can't cling on to, right? So obviously you don't be walking around with menacing angels following you, trying to cling on to you, right?
Bad ones?
Huh?
Menacing?
Menacing, bad angels.
Okay.
They're not there to do any good. They're not the good angels. What do they get clinged on to? What do they hold on to? Broken vessels, right? Like a broken plate, like a broken chair, a broken wall, a deserted home that's dilapidated, right? A ripped shirt, ripped jeans. It looks for things that are incomplete, things that are broken, things that are torn, and it holds on to it. And bgadim kroim nitfasim ezikim ba'adam. When a person has ripped clothes, usually, because you have to understand, before 2020 or the 2000s or 1980, when ripped jeans came into that, ripped jeans was poor people walking around, right? Our conscience shifted that we think it's cool, right? Mm-hmm. But up until a few years ago, ripped clothes was not a fashionable thing, or not an acceptable thing. If somebody had ripped clothes, it was only because they couldn't afford new clothes or whole clothes, right? Mm-hmm. Not only that, ripped clothes represents in our culture mourning. Somebody passed away, you ripped their clothes.
Right. So what about when you rip the clothes and the menacing angels come onto you?
When a person is in mourning, it's a whole different scenario, right? When you rip the clothes. We're not talking about that. But we see this, that the neshama, and the Zohar says that anybody, that you have to understand, you're always a reflection of something. Nothing is a mistake. It says when a person is wearing a piece of clothing that is ripped, that means that in their neshama there's a rip, there's a tear, there's some sort of a hole there that needs to get fixed. It's almost like a sign, like this, even as if you're talking to yourself, you have a hole, you have a gap in your spirituality that needs to get filled. As a matter of fact, a rabbi was asked if you're allowed to wear ripped jeans. He says, Hever v'ra'ot ruach. He says, halachically, are you allowed to wear ripped jeans? He says, Vaday lo. No. Why? Two things. Isur shachatz v'gava. It projects a person who is haughty and who is pompous. Mm-hmm. And the second halachic reason why you shouldn't wear, because isur chukot hagoyim, you are acting like a goy. Jews don't wear ripped clothes. When you're wearing that ripped jeans, you are emulating a goy, and we have a mitzvah, or a mitzvah, not a mitzvah, but a prohibition not to act like goyim. Wearing ripped jeans is you emulating a Gentile, and that's why you shouldn't do it. Now, furthermore, it says, he continues to say, she says there's a problem. Lashir b'bayit kelim shvuim, to leave in the house broken vessels. Lilvosh b'gadim kurim, to wear ripped clothes. Kilefia Kabbalah, according to the Kabbalah, mitzad hidabkut chitzonim, the chitzonim, the external, the menacing angels, hold on to these things, right? So the rabbi says it's better that you don't have broken vessels in your house, right? If you have, that's why when you do a kiddush, the kiddush cup, we don't do a kiddush on a broken cup or a chipped cup. We try anytime we have something ripped or broken, out. Don't buy things that are used, things that they have bad spiritual energies that are connected to it.
Even if you put it in the mikvah?
What? No, if you put it in the mikvah, but let's say you buy a broken plate, it's already got that spiritual
Energy.
bad spiritual energy in it, so you don't want to do that. So the rabbi is here, but not going too much into it, is that it's better that you be very careful with that, because you want clean energy around you. You don't want things that these invisible things clinging onto a plate, clinging onto a chair, clinging onto a pair of jeans. We don't need that, right? Now that we know better, thank you very much. Up until now we didn't know. Moving forward, we know. And these little things, these little tweaks in our lives is what make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Now, nowadays, people come to shul, and they even come to shul on Shabbat with ripped jeans. Now, ironically, these jeans, they cost $200. Some of them $300. I know the name, the brand names. So you know what it is? They are wearing their best clothing. They are. It's the most expensive thing in their closet.
But
The $300 jean with a $200 T-shirt.
But it's
It
idol
contradicts
worship.
itself then.
Huh?
It's a little contradictory.
Exactly. So what's happening over here? They have the intention that they're wearing the best clothes for Shabbat, but as Jews, that's not us. We don't wear $300 jeans and a $200 T-shirt on Shabbat. We wear a dress shirt. We wear a suit. We wear different things to show to honor the Shabbat, to honor the holiday. And not only that, the guy spent $300, so a menacing angel should cling on to him the whole time when he's wearing it for the next year or two. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? As a matter of fact, we always want to make sure that we honor the Shabbat, we honor the Chagi, we honor the Yom Tov, but it's not a jeans, it's not a T-shirt, it's dress pants and a shirt. Us Israelis that came to America and lived here for many years, I know we always used to get videos from our families' bar mitzvahs and families' wedding, right? So we became Americanized. So every time you go to a bar mitzvah or to a wedding, you wear a suit. Right? You go to shul, you wear a suit. We turn on the video to our aunts, uncles, cousins, nephews, and you see that the family, maybe the father has a suit, but everybody else is in a jeans and a dress shirt. And then as time progressed, jeans and a T-shirt. And you look around the entire wedding hall, it's like, what is this? Everybody's in jeans and a T-shirt, but you have to understand, over there, those jeans are super expensive, and that T-shirt super expensive, but it doesn't have that feel of hagigi or something that is like festive. And over here, and when we go over there, we're the only ones that are dressed in a suit. We stand out like a sore thumb. But in reality, it's
You look good.
Huh?
You look good.
Thank you. But in reality, the Jewish consensus is that you dress up properly, respectfully, honorably, and it's not jeans and a T-shirt, regardless of the value. Regardless of the value. Now, there's another layer to clothing in Judaism. It's not just your physical apparel that we've been discussing up until now. Okay? It's your spiritual apparel. And for this I want to dig a little bit deeper, because this is the walk away. This is the takeaway from this class. After 120 years, we go to Olam Haba, right? Bezat Hashem. There's no body.
Right.
It's just a soul. Okay? And the soul is also dressed in clothing. But it's spiritual clothing. And the spiritual clothing is formed by the mitzvot we performed. So, you have to imagine, when we perform the mitzvot with kavanah, with intention, with hidur, meaning we do it, I could get a $10, a $99 suit, but I can get a $300 suit, for example, right? I can get a $20 etrog, or I can get a $150 etrog, right? I do the mitzvah, but I do it with hidur. I upgrade it. I make it. I take it to the max, right? So when I have the proper intention, and when I amplify the mitzvah, I give it a hidur, and I do it besimcha, with joy, that creates a form of spiritual clothing. And this spiritual clothing is our clothing, that's our eternal clothing in Olam Haba. Eternal spiritual clothing for Olam Haba. So look at this. I could take now and do a $20 etrog, right? I could do a mitzvah bracha without kavanah, without intention, and with no fervor. I created a spiritual clothing, right? So let's say I got myself a $10 shirt and a $20 suit, right? That's what my performance got me as a spiritual clothing, spiritual apparel. If I do the exact same mitzvah, but I'm excited and I'm happy and I want to make it the best that it could be, that $10 shirt becomes a $1,000 Gucci shirt. All right, the $20 suit becomes a $10,000.
Your intention counts.
The intention counts. Your clothing gets upgraded, and this is clothing, that spiritual clothing that stays there for eternity.
Okay.
So imagine every time you do a mitzvah, your body gets dressed with another clothing. I guess at the end, I don't know what it looks like, but at the end, it's
Something to visualize.
it is, because imagine after 120 years, you go into a big hall. A hall that holds not 100 people, not 500 people, but 10,000 people. And all of a sudden, it's your grand entrance. After 120 years, you're just a soul wearing the spiritual clothing. You open up the door, and all of a sudden, the whole hall stands up. Why? Who are you? They don't know you. What do they see?
Shiny.
They just see your clothes. They say, whoa.
I see your mitzvahs.
Right? It's like, imagine you see a guy that's walking in with a shorts and a tank top, walking into that room with 10,000 people, or somebody from the royal family with the garb and this. You get two different reactions. One, ignored. One, everybody's attention and standing up. So imagine, after 120 years, you walk into that room, and your spiritual garb is so ornate that the whole room stands up. They know nothing about you, not your name, not this. But they can see, according to your clothes, you're a very chashuv person, a very important person.
Yeah.
What's more important?
What?
Focusing on your physical in the physical world, or focusing on your mitzvot with your spiritual attire, or both?
What do you mean physical world? Physical world meaning what?
I'm starting to wrap my head around the fact that I have to get rid of my ripped jeans, and I love my ripped jeans.
Okay, so it's a process. Get rid of one, keep the rest. Next month, get rid of another one, little by little. It's a process. If you do it like a Band-Aid, it's going to hurt. What you want to do is you want to do wherever you are spiritually right now. You got to do what feels good and feels right. Right now, you've discovered the truth. Okay? You have the truth. Now it's on you what you do with the truth.
Gradually.
I always say, slow and steady wins the race. Set yourself, you know what, in 6 months I'm getting rid of all of them. In 3 months, in 1 week. Or if you know what, if you're Eshet Chaim, I found the truth here, donation, no more. I want to wear I want to be, God's daughter, the best daughter that there is. I'm starting today. Each one according to their level, and it's all good. Whether you do it right away or not, as long as you're in a work in progress, God is okay with it. And you don't want to set up yourself for failure. You don't want to do something where at the end of the day it's like, that's just, nothing feels right anymore. Everything's so restricting, and it's not. You have to really discover the beauty of the religion. And if it takes you a long time, short time, or immediately, it's on you.
And once you do it a little bit, you start to feel something that you feel good, and you want to do a little more.
So the Sfat Emet says something incredible. Sfat Emet says, "Va'inyan hu ki adam al yedei ma'asav koneh lo malbushim lanshama." It says that the person is able to acquire clothing for his soul. The way that it's written in the Zohar Kadosh. He says, "Al yedei Torah zochim lemalbush haruach began Eden." If according to your Torah learning, you're able to acquire clothing for the part of your soul. Let's talk about parts of the soul. We have 5 parts to our soul. 3 that are with us in this world, 2 more that we acquire on Shabbat and are also available only in Olam Haba. They're called Naran, Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama. That's what we work with over here. Those are the 3 parts of our souls. Then there is Yechida and Chaya. Those are 2 parts that get attached to us later on in Shabbat. Yechida. So, and basically in the upper worlds we have. It's like you have to imagine that your neshama has 5 components. You are typically working with 3 all the time, and the other 2 is something that we're going to in the world to come. What time is it?
9:35.
Okay. In the world to come, we're going to deal with it. So it says.
What is Shabbat? So we connect with it on Shabbat?
Mm-hmm.
There's an additional soul we get on Shabbat. So it says Torah, according to the Torah learning, we get the special garb for the Ruach part of it in Gan Eden. With our Ma'asim Tovim, with our acts of kindness, we get the garb for the Nefesh part of our soul. And according to Machshava Veratzon, thought and the desire, we get the garb for our neshama. So we see that different parts of our body, different parts of our neshama, get different types of garb. Now, there's a story that I want to share with you that I heard from Rav Israel Abergel about. It's a good story about Rab Chaim Volozhin, who is the student of the Gaon Mivilna. The Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, he's world famous for setting up the yeshiva system. Back in the days, everybody used to just go to yeshiva. Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, who was a student of the Gaon Vilna, what was unique about him is that they separated the yeshiva world into levels of understanding. So they started to do classes like intermediate, advanced, starter, and that started the whole yeshiva culture, right? Mm-hmm. So it talks about Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, that he used to go from town to town to collect money in order to support the yeshiva. Mm-hmm. And there was this one farmer who he would go to every single year, and the farmer would give him a tremendous amount of money every single year. Why? Because the farmer used to make a living, and every time he'd come home, he'd give 50% in a box. Says that's for the yeshiva, 50% he's give for him to live. One time, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin wasn't able to give a class for 3 days. He couldn't come up with a class. He was stuck on a certain sugya, on a certain concept, and he was really bothered by it. And typically, he also, he would go outside to go collect money for the yeshiva. But this particular year, the rabbi was already old. It was very difficult for him, and now he also couldn't leave the. He didn't give a class in 3 days. He was so bothered, and all of a sudden, the students come to him and they tell him, "You know who died? The famous farmer that used to support you for 30 years, 40 years." Mm-hmm. He's like, "When did he die?" He says, "He died about 3 days ago." Mm-hmm. So he says, "Okay, load up the wagon, mm-hmm. get all the provisions that we need. It's a 3-day journey. If we go there really fast, we'll be able to be there on the Shiva, and I'll be able to eulogize him." Mm-hmm. While they're setting up everything, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin was waiting over there. He was still learning that page that he had difficulties with, and he fell asleep. When he fell asleep, that farmer came to him in a dream, mm-hmm. and he was so happy. He tells him, "Why are you so happy?" He seems smiling. He says, "Why are you smiling? Why are you so happy?" He says, "Because I'm finally in the world of Emet." And he says to him, "But why are you so sad?" He's like, "It's 3 days, I can't give a class." He says, "Why?" He says, "I can't figure this page out." So he says, "Okay, tell me what it is." And the rabbi showed him the page in the dream, and he gave him 3-4 different ways of understanding it, and he was blown away. He wakes up. He wakes up and he was so blown away. He's like, "How do you know all this Torah?" You were a simple farmer. You never went to school. You never learned. He says, when I came to this world, I had special types of clothing. And when I walked in, everywhere that I walked, they gave me such honor. And it was because all the Torah learning that was done in the yeshiva, and all the students that I supported, and all the books that I bought, they got me this clothes. And when I got there, it was very strange, because at first they showed me these caravans of sins that I made, and I thought I was completely in trouble. But then they showed me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other caravans of mitzvot that I made, and they upgraded me, and I ended up going to the highest levels, learning with the Tanaic rabbis. He says, you're learning with the Tanaic rabbis? He's like, yeah, but you didn't learn a stitch of Torah. He said, because I supported Torah, they upgraded me. And he says, and when I came into the room, they stood up for me because of the clothing that I wore. Because he supported the Torah. So even he wasn't able to perform the mitzvot, he supported the Torah learners, and he was able to say it was the story is that the rabbi gave the class. He went to eulogize him, but we see that the spiritual clothing is still there
It's a nice story.
It is.
No, it's also about supporting Torah, not just about the clothing, but about supporting Torah.
That's right. So in conclusion, the clothes we wear, we have to know, it's b'tzniut and bekavod. It's what honors us. We have to be very careful with the way we dress. Our clothing protects us. Our clothing honors us. Our clothing defines us as Jews. But what we just learned now about our spiritual garments is the real wardrobe that we're concerned with. This is the real wardrobe that we're concerned with.
That's your eternal wardrobe.
Exactly. Forever and ever. And that's what we have to that's why every time we perform a mitzvah, we can create a blank white T-shirt and khakis, or it can be a silk shirt with the most expensive suit. It all depends on how you perform the mitzvah that creates the spiritual garb. And don't forget to do it besimcha, with happiness, to do it with kavanah, with intentions, and to do it behidur, any way that you can make it better. Imagine as if we are graded on all our performance of the mitzvot, and the score, what we score, is going to show it to us in the clothing that we get in Olam Haba. Bezat Hashem, that we merit to elevate the spiritual through the physical, and that our worldly garments and our spiritual garments will be couture. That they will be custom made, ornate, and unique to us. Just like each Jew is unique in their service of Hashem. So like that, when you walk into the heavens and that you walk through that door without saying anything, they look at your clothes and they say, what a tzaddik, what a tzaddikah. Hashem varech otchem v'sameach otchem. Bezat Hashem, that we merit to bracha v'atzlacha.
Amen. Thank you. Amen. I didn't